Hey there, wrestling fans, it is I, CM Jew, the most glorious Jew that ever lived, and your wrestling rabbi. So just sit back and bask in my glory, because on this epic landmark episode, we cover rallies, tampons, and takeovers. And in the main event, we return to January 4th in the Tokyo Dome, when an ace returned to his throne. All that and more on episode 100 of CM Jew's Wrestling Reviews.
I have proved to everybody in the world that I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary. Nobody can touch me.
Yes, welcome one and all to the video era of CM Jew's Wrestling Reviews. For those who've not heard the show before, because, well, quite frankly, we haven't had a video episode yet, with the exception of the G1 Climax updates that we did last summer as sort of a test for this. I am your host, CM Jew, a 30-year veteran fan of the wrestling industry. Well, not industry, but watching professional wrestling. I've seen it all. I was there in the rock and roll wrestling connection of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior. I was there for the Monday Night Wars. I was there for Ruthless Aggression. I was here for PG. I was there for ECW. Well, late ECW. I was there for TNA. I was there for Ring of Honor. And of course, I'm now here hoping to pass my knowledge as a wrestling rabbi on to you. And like I said, this is the first video because for the past 99 episodes, we've been doing it in podcast form, audio only. But now we are moving into video because, you know, I have this beautiful video figure and petite dancing figure. Woohoo! And here to entertain you, the wrestling fan. So with that, as I said, let's get right into the first topic, of course, we have, and that is AEW. This past week, this past Tuesday, as of this recording, they had their rally in Jacksonville, which, no mistake, was, of course, right across town from where SmackDown Live was being taped, among other things. Just to go down the news very quickly, roster as far as who they've had either signed or will be working with AEW in regards to individual wrestlers. Definitely signed is the Young Bucks, Adam Page, Cody, Dr. Britt Baker, and Chris Jericho, who's going to be there for at least 3 years. They also had Joey Janela, Malcolm Jacob Freeman, Penelope Ford was there, representing Dragon Gate. Pac was there, and of course they've already now announced that him and Hangman Page will be having a match, I believe, for their World Heavyweight title. It's not said yet, but that's what it may be for Double or Nothing. Of course, Cody's wife is also signed. Brandy is the brand manager. They announced that also that they will be working with Oriental Wrestling organization. Not organization, it's Oriental Wrestling Entertainment, I think it is. And I've started watching some of their stuff. I still don't know what to make of them, but they're a Chinese company, and as they said, it's a mixture of lucha libre, kung fu, and sort of comedy in a way. We'll get to more of that in coming weeks. I'm definitely going to watch more so I can give you guys a more honest view when I see of them. Like I said, of course, their next big pay-per-view is going to be Double or Nothing, which is going to be May 25th in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Arena. There will be supposedly more announcements coming. They are going to have a second show after that, or maybe before that. We don't know yet. That will be in Jacksonville, with proceeds going to victims of gun violence, which is, of course, good. And then in the more PR market, they announced that they're going to have health care for wrestlers, and that wrestlers, both men and women, are going to be paid equally, and that they're accepting of all genders, races, sexual orientations. It doesn't matter to them. Which is, I guess let's start there, because that's a lot of good PR work. And for the initiative fan who maybe doesn't know, it maybe makes it sound as if WWE doesn't care about the health of their wrestlers, because, again, as being the alternative, this is something that has always been a sort of a complaint that, WWE doesn't give wrestlers health care. But there needs to be clarification of that. WWE, as I believe any wrestling company, or at least major wrestling company, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, I always call it TNA, but Impact, Ring of Honor, I do believe, I don't know about Ring of Honor actually, I know they didn't, I don't know if they do now, but I would imagine with Sinclair they can do it now. But basically what it is, at least WWE, if you get injured in the ring, or, while you're working for the company like Roman Reigns having cancer, needing cancer treatment, I do believe that WWE will help cover the costs. They cover you, they help you get healed, they help you get surgery and all of that if you're injured in the ring. It's the primary care and the care for the wrestlers and their family at WWE doesn't cover, which is par for the course for a lot of very similar entertainment companies. Definitely the NFL, at the very least, of if you're not signed by a team, you're not covered. And certainly once you retire, you lose those benefits. But, with WWE, they also remember, if you're a former wrestler, I think legends have healthcare. I'm not sure on that, but I definitely know that if you're a former wrestler and you're having drug problems or need to go get help in a situation like that, WWE also will cover that. But as far as primary care, WWE does not cover that, does not give wrestlers health care. And I think that's what they're saying, but as it got revealed later, it's primarily only going to be for those who work in the business implement. We don't know if that yet is going to be given to wrestlers in the ring, and like Joey Donnelly and others who may not be working in the main office. And that can be a little manipulative. It possibly can be. I'm not saying that it is, but it can be manipulative if it's something to where a wrestler maybe is not working out with AEW and would like to be released and go somewhere else, but they can't because, they need the health care for their family and they're not going to get anywhere else. And so they're forced to continue working with AEW when they really don't want to anymore and want to go somewhere else. So I can see that as being a possible conflict that can pop up in the future. Again, we may see if things get clarified even more on that front. But again, that is something, being cynical, I can see in the near future possibly happening. Also on equal pay, of course, paying men and women the same is important, but wrestling and wrestlers aren't necessarily always on the equal scale. I mean, men don't get paid the same. Hopefully, top talent, and if there's a max limit talent can make, hopefully the top talent, both men and women, will be making the same. But again, it's going to be interesting. How are they going to do that? Is there a ring system? As far as, you're in the main event, so you get the same amount of money. You're the main fee, or if you're at the top talent considered by fans, which is the other thing that could be possibly manipulative in the fact that it's going to be based on fan reaction and how that's judged into importance of the company, to what's considered the top stars will be making X amount of money on the female and male sides. And then you have people's paychecks being completely dependent upon the fans. And let's be honest, fans can be fickle. And now you're talking about, if for whatever sometimes stupid reason, fans not liking a wrestler, that causing their pay to go down. And there's a lot of ways I can see it going left. I'm not saying, again, that it's going to happen, but again, just being a little bit cynical and looking at the possible conflicts that could possibly happen. These are some things that do worry me. But as it is, it was great PR, but that's all it is right now. It's all of that stuff feels like a lot of good PR. And again, it feels like it's feeding off that sort of fan, internalized sort of fan narrative that sort of the false fan identity has created of the evil Vince and doing the stuff that evil Vince won't do without the fans really fully understanding what really goes on as far as healthcare and pay scales and all of that. So, and again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing for them to be paid equal. It's a great thing. I just want to see how they do it, and I personally would like to know more information, especially now that they put it out there. I think the fans deserve to know more information about that. Because if you're going to make that as an important aspect of your business, you should be telling fans exactly how that's going to work. But sort of that cynicism aside on those issues, again, I don't know how OWE is going to work. Again, because I've only seen some of their stuff and I'm not completely impressed. And I'd rather leave to my thoughts on that company maybe for the next episode, because I definitely want to watch more of them. But I think they do have a solid roster. But I definitely think they need more than what they have. Obviously, they're going to get more. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they have. It definitely looks like they're going the route I thought they would be going, in which they're going to work with a lot of smaller companies like Dragon Gate, like OVE. I think there are rumors of them being able to work with AAA, the Mexico Lucha Libre promotion. That's sort of the alternate to CMLL. That's going to be interesting. And if it does come to play that, Kenny Omega's staying with New Japan is dependent on them working with AEW, we might see New Japan working with them, and Ring of Honor for that matter. But it is also possible that they let him go, and we might have a three-way battle going where it's Ring of Honor in Japan, WWE, and then AEW and all the smaller promotions. And again, this is really going into what I thought we'd see in 2019, in which we're sort of seeing the return of the territory system with individual organizations, but instead of two, there's maybe three, and they're affiliates and wrestlers of those organizations going around those affiliates. And with WWE, that's talking about affiliates that they're working with, like Progress, and also their NXT global localization plan as well. So really, and that's all I have for you guys right now on AEW. Moving on, though, to really the next thing, and there's really no good segue from rallies to tampons. But of course, the big controversy has already happened in this wrestling year, and that being the controversy of Priscilla Kelly's tampons. For those who don't know the story, in a over 18 adult-only bar in California, during a show that was for adults, a female wrestler by the name of Priscilla Kelly was fighting another female wrestler in an anything goes type of battle. And in the midst of it, while they weren't in the ring, I guess something about tuna was made mention of, I think by the other wrestler. So she said, "You want the tuna? Here's the tuna," and reaches into her pants and pulls out, mind you, this was fake. It wasn't a real one of these, but again, she pulled out what looked like a bloody used tampon. Like I said, it wasn't a real bloody used tampon. It was, I guess, a tampon made to look bloody. So it was a prop bleed. used tampon, but still passing off what looks like a bloody used tampon. And then basically thrusting it into the girl's face and rubbed her face, rubbed the tampon all over her face, smushing her. This has led to people like JR and Gail Kim and Tessa Blanchard and others to say this is disgusting and embarrassing to the wrestling company. Of course, Jim Cornette didn't like it. I'm sure as soon as this went down, people were just like blasting his Twitter with images of it. Because, of course, people like to see Jim Cornette lose his mind. But, I've had mixed feelings about how I feel with it, because as somebody who defends tamer forms of comedic wrestling, at the same time, I've had mixed feelings of some of the more adult stuff. Like I said, Joey Ryan, who I sometimes think he does take it too far, but I don't see anything, because I do believe in that idea of, if it's for a certain crowd and everything, I may hate it, but it is what it is. And this probably would have been the case for this too, except for one thing that Priscilla Kelly did. And that is, I guess, in going back with people who said that she was an embarrassment, she basically came out and said, you guys know it's fake. You shouldn't be complaining because you know it's all fake. And to me, that becomes the problem with this situation. If they had done the spot and she says, it was an adult-only thing and we're doing it for that, you can like it or hate it, it's your choice. If just left well enough alone in that sense, I really wouldn't have any comment on this, and I don't think there'd be a controversy. But I think for people like Jim Cornette, Jim Cornette doesn't like the comedy stuff anyways, but I think, and if you listen to his latest podcast, I think he talks about it too. I think a lot of other people in the industry would also make mention of that. Oh, get up here, buddy. Don't fall down. I had our first sponsor of the year. But I think the main problem here is, saying wrestling's fake. And there are certain words you shouldn't use, in particular if you're in the wrestling industry, to describe wrestling. Joke and fake are two of them. And to blatantly say it's all fake, sort of, what it hurts is it hurts the respect that wrestling has worked ages to get, and the respect that women's wrestling has worked even longer and harder to get. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that WWE's Raw was having mud wrestling matches and bikini contests, and we're only bringing in women that looked good in a bikini or lingerie. And as much as a heterosexual man, I maybe like those bikini contests, and certainly defend some of them. This Royal Rumble 2000, come on. that had a story behind it, and it was a funny story. And certainly, of course, they would also bring up in defense of this, things like the Mae Young storyline that didn't exactly bring respect to women's wrestling. There were a lot of women, from Trish Stratus to Lita to Jazz to Jacqueline to Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, and to what the women's revolution with Becky Lynch. I almost said Becky Lynch, but anytime you say your name, you have to say the man Becky Lynch. Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Ember Moon, Asuka. All of these wonderful female wrestlers have worked so hard to get women's wrestling such respect. And again, using a tampon in sort of a comedy match like that, while I dislike it, honestly, again, all things being equal, we have a guy who has a lollipop in his pants and puts it in people's mouth and flips people over his dick. What can we really say about it? But when you declare that we shouldn't complain about it or shouldn't be bothered by it because it's all fake anyways, you've disrespected the business in a way that to me is unforgivable. And you've basically thrown away all the respect that wrestling and women's wrestling has worked so hard to get. And understand, that's what this is about. Respect for the business. And she didn't disrespect the business because she did the spot. She disrespected the business because she did the spot and then said that we don't have a right to not like it because it's all fake. And that is spitting in the face of the business. So, to me, I'm not saying that she shouldn't have her career because I never wish that on anybody. But honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be a fan of hers because of that. Because basically you threw out she's not going to be solely responsible for everybody now completely disrespecting it. But mind you, again, it just showed that she had a lack of respect for the business that she's working in, and that gives her a vocation that she enjoys. And that disrespect means a lot to me. It tells me you don't care about this business. I'm not somebody who says just apologize, because this is more than an apology. She has to show that she understands how hard this business needs that respect. Again, I'm not somebody to sit there and say how you should treat her. If you like what she does, I have more power for you, but I don't think I'm going to be a fan of hers anytime soon. Unfortunately, there is really no way to segue from that other than speaking of something that has complete respect of the wrestling industry. This past Saturday, as this video stuff just kept being pushed back, now we can cover this. But this past Saturday, or the other day as of this recording, NXT UK had its first takeover in NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool, returning to the site of the first NXT UK tournament. And my God, WWE's first pay-per-view of its year blew it. You know what? It threw down the gauntlet, mother effers. I'm trying not to curse. I'm trying to be PG, not want to be demonetized. But, not that I'm going to be monetized, but if by chance to somehow ever gets monetized, don't want to be demonetized, because... But, you want to talk about a barn burner. This is not going to be a full review, but let's just go down as quickly as possible as we possibly can. First match of the night, as usual, it's the tag teams killing it. Mustache Mountain versus Liverpool #1, Zach Gibson and James Drake. And my God, what a match these guys had. So many great near falls, so much great wrestling. I mean, the Tyler Bate once again steals the show. The Mr. Shawn Michaels, or should I say, let me rephrase this. Okay, a better way to say it is UK's Shawn Michaels. Because that's what he is. He's the UK version of Shawn Michaels. Just keeps pulling amazing stuff out of nowhere and just completely blows my mind. That bridging escape, the lifting of two men into the airplane spin, it was just absolutely wonderful. Amazing match. And, give them props, not immediately putting the titles on Mustache Mountain, giving it to Gibson and to Drake. Of course, that also can be because maybe, possibly, Mustache Mountain is going to be called up to the main roster. I'm not saying they are, that there's no really confirmation of this. But, when you look at them and Pete Dunn, they've done so much in the British indie scene. They've already done a lot with NXT UK and the WWE sort of UK title, as it will. I can certainly see them being moved up to either Raw or SmackDown, especially if they're deciding they're going to grow their roster so they can have more variety with what they're having. I mean, can you imagine Undisputed Era and British Strong Style both being put on Raw? I mean, you can just have those two groups go at each other for basically the entire year, wrestling over belts and tournaments and everything, and just having again, you could tell them just go out there, and make the show your own, and it could be another thing like the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, especially if somehow there's like a third group added to it. And that's sort of wishful thinking, but like you could sort of see that possibly happening. So absolutely amazing match. Then sort of the first big surprise of the night. And sort of great storytelling. Jordan Devlin against the Kiwi Buzzsaw. I don't have the names in front of me. God, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. But basically, they had a feud before the show. Devlin attacked him, hurt his leg. He tried to get a jump on Devlin, but Devlin turned it around on him and severely injured him to where he couldn't wrestle the match. But knowing that this might happen, the general managers of Johnny Saint had a plan B. And that plan B, since Jordan Devlin is calling himself the ace of Ireland and the best wrestler to ever come out of Ireland, is quite possibly the best wrestler to ever come out of Ireland, Finn Balor. And him and Jordan Devlin had a wonderful match, sort of the great sort of the teacher versus student match. And it was really good and really enjoyed it. And they told a great story. Unfortunately, I think the weakest match, or second weakest, tied with the women's match. But again, weakest by the sense that it's a great match. It's just the other matches were that much more amazing. Speaking of the next match, you had the no disqualification match between Eddie Daniels, the sort of towering monster, and Dave Matchiff, this just beast. And these big boys tore it down. Like you can't believe. And like, ooh. Props for letting him go, and he told a great story. He had a great sort of hardcore match, sort of great type of hardcore match that you can really have in the PG era. That doesn't require blood and all that stuff. And it was just a really good match. Dave Matchiff getting, the win. It was good to see, but also, having Eddie Daniels be able to walk out under his own power, showing his own strength. Both wrestlers looked amazingly strong, and the crowd, I think, really enjoyed it. Then you had the women's match, Rhea Ripley defending her NXT women's title against Toni Storm, who, of course, won the Mae Young Classic, and used her title shot to challenge for this title. And they had a good match. It could have used a little bit more time, I think, but they still told a really good story, and loved sort of the implementation of that strong style to where it took, I think, at least 2 strong zeros to put Rhea Ripley away. There wasn't just a fantastic move to put it over the top. It was a really, really good match. Unfortunately, compared to all the other matches, I think it was the weakest. But again, that's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, it's like, again, it's the weakest match of this card, but if it was on any other card, even a main roster card, it'd be match of the night. So, like, that tells you something about the card. I mean, again, we're continuing NXT's long tradition of, the past takeover is the best. Hold my beer. And speaking of hold my beer to all the other matches, Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey. Holy shnikes. What hasn't been said about this match that women haven't said about men who actually bring them the orgasm? Like, oh my god, this match. The near falls, the false finishes. And mind you, it was sloppy. I don't think it was the best match of the night. I think the tag team match was the best match of the night. And this would go battle for second place between this and sort of the no disqualification match. Because there were some botches. There was the obvious mistake of they wanted to do something towards the end of the match on the top rope, and they just kept falling. Thank God they weren't injured. But just the near falls the wrestling, the power game from Coffey. That powerbomb, sit-down powerbomb on the apron was just wicked. And the way they battled back and forth and just built and built and built, which, again, I love when matches really build towards that end. It's something you're going to be hearing me say a lot in our main event tonight about Wrestle Kingdom that I think was missing. Just to give a little preview there. But they just kept building and building and building to it. And then that finished to where, second time, kick out of the bitter end. So the rollover, the on top triangle, and the grabbing of the arm and the manipulating of the fingers and the joints to such a severe angle that Coffey had to tap out. I love that finish. That was amazing and a wonderful sort of... You didn't expect that to be the finish, and it was great. And it worked because you understood all the pain they'd go through, to where if maybe early in the match he could have tried to survive it, but he was in so much pain, with that arm and everything, that, could not do it anymore. But that would not be the last surprise, because in true NXT fashion, they have, of course, Pete Dunn with the belt and everything, and he's posing, and they had the little, credits, thank you for watching, stay tuned for the Nigel McGuinness story, which, by the way, was amazing and awesome. Don't want to go just flush over that, because you need to check that out, because it was absolutely amazing to what Nigel McGuinness has gone through in his career. A lot of stuff I didn't know, and it makes you really feel for the guy, and love the fact that he has this chance now. But you think going on when all of a sudden, da 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 da, because out comes Walter, who we knew was signed. He hadn't made his debut yet, but you knew he was going to NXT UK, and yeah, it was great. Gets in the ring, stares down Pete Dunne. Coffey tries again, gives him that big boot, boots him the hell out, goes up, puts arm behind the back, and oh, I love it. And then of course Pete Dunne, I think they just sold out their next takeover event. And needless to say, 5 out of 5, if you have to give it stars, 5 out of 5 stars for the entire event. That tag team match, already a match of the year candidate. I'm not going to call the main event a match of the year candidate because it filled with too many botches for my likes for a match of the year candidate, but still an absolutely amazing match. And that's just the first takeover. We got another takeover in 2 weeks, and the Royal Rumble, which is more often than not one of the best pay-per-views WWE puts on all year. And we also had a very decent Wrestle Kingdom. It's going to be a good month, Tater. It's going to be a good month. Yeah, like I said, though, Wrestle Kingdom happened, of course, before this. So don't you want to know what I thought of it? Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's time to get to our main event of the evening. Hailing from the Tokyo Dome on January 4th by New Japan Pro Wrestling with your English color commentary team of Kellen Kelly and Don Callis. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into Wrestle Kingdom 13. Special pre-show match, a gauntlet match to determine the number one contender for the Never Openweight 6-man tag team championships. The Elite, Hangman Page, Yujiro Takahashi, and Marty Scurll, with Chase Owens and Pizza, versus Suzuki Gun, Minoru Suzuki, Lance Archer, Davey Boy Smith Jr., versus Blue Justice of Yuji Nagata, Jeff Cobb, Dave Finley, versus Chaos of Hiroki Goto, Beretta and Chucky T versus Taguchi Japan of Ryusuke Taguchi, Toru Yano, and Togi Makabe. And of course, we have to start off with the pre-show match. Now, they took out the new year Battle Royal, which I think a lot of people would rather it stayed in there. But unfortunately, it didn't. And they replaced it with a gauntlet match for the never openweight 6-man tag team titles, which is something they've had the past couple years on the main card. But of course, those were for the titles, and this was just for the number one contendership to face the team of Tamatanga, Tangaloa, and I can't remember if it was Taji Ishimori or Bad Luck Fale. I believe Taji Ishimori at New Year's Dash. And overall, it was good. I love some of the stories being told in it. I love that Team Blue Justice, which was Nagata, Cobb, and Finlay, actually made it through two teams, and those were both big upsets. They, of course, made it through Bullet Club, which, again, I was sad to see them lose first, because, again, Yujiro Takahashi is one of my favorite Japanese wrestlers. And so is Petra. And also to see Marty Skull and Hangman Page. I mean, I know they weren't going to win, but I thought they would have gone further in the gauntlet, or would at least like to see them go further in the gauntlet. And then, of course, the big shocking win over Team Chaos. That was a big upset in my mind, because I think a lot of people were picking Goto and the Best Friends to win it all. Like that it was Suzuki Gun that eliminated them. And then I loved sort of the ending part where you had sort of the reuniting of the Great Bash Hills of Yano and Makabe, because of course Jay White, and if they talked about it all throughout the night, which I actually liked. Kevin Kelly did this, of, you know, what has Jay White done to the company, bringing all these warring factions actually together. But Yano, Yusuke Taguchi, and Togi Makabe, and them actually picking up the win. And of course, Toru Yano is, I think, like my third favorite wrestler from Japan right now, with Tanahashi and Naito being one or two, sometimes switching between those. Then followed by Yujiro Takahashi, and then Kushida. So overall, I thought it was good, but I think all the matches could have been given them more time. I mean, I know they want to give time for people to go to concessions and get the final things before the main match, but I would have liked to see maybe give 5-10 more minutes to the entire thing and just space it out between all those gauntlet matches. I think could have helped it a lot. And it's just going to be a running theme that I feel, particularly through the undercard of Wrestle Kingdom 13, is time and energy. Sometimes just time, sometimes just energy, sometimes both. But definitely with the gauntlet, I feel they could have used more time. And because of that, it was good, but it just wasn't great. But with that, let's move on to the main show proper with the first match. First match for the Never Openweight Championship. The Aerial Assassin, Will Osprey, versus the Golden Star, Kota Ibushi. So, of course, the first match was the dream match that everybody was waiting for. Kota Ibushi versus Will Osprey. And they didn't disappoint. This was a really, really good match. I dare say one of the best matches of the night. A great way to kick off Wrestle Kingdom 13 at a very high octane level. At maybe the unfortunate cost of energy for the other matches to follow it. Because, of course, there was really no way to follow it. Particularly the next match, which we'll get to. But, yeah, really good job. I love that it wasn't all just high-flying craziness. That's my phone disagreeing with me. The other matches were good. No, it wasn't. Shut up. But our second botch of the year, ladies and gentlemen, keep the count. There will be a test at the end of the year of how many botches we've had. And then you can put it on Botchamania. If Botch Club doesn't put him out of business. Which hopefully they won't. I think they both can survive. But anyways, on topic. But yeah, I love that it wasn't just all high flying. There was a lot of striking, actually a lot of ground game stuff and everything. Really playing to Cotto Bushi's strength with his kicks, and then showing Will Osprey's maneuverability, but also showing both wrestlers' toughness. And I thought they had a great energy, great chemistry together, and they really worked well together. And of course, Cotto Bushi's selling is just out of this world. And maybe that's, I think, what got him in trouble, because of course the word is that the stretcher job after the match was planned, but the concussion that he apparently has isn't. And I think where that happened was when he was being brought up from the Tree of Woe and then put on the top turnbuckle, and he, if you remember seeing him, he like really sold that and went forward and hit his head on the post. I think that's where it happened, because I also think that's where he got cut. I mean, even the commentators noticed that. And I think that was him overselling and unfortunately hitting his head on the post and giving himself a concussion. And hopefully Cotto Bushi ends up being okay. But yeah, really good match. I love the build towards the end and just the continued strikes as Will Osprey gained control, and just him chopping Cotto Bushi down and finally putting him down with that Stormbringer finisher. It was just a really, really great opening match and a great way to start Wrestle Kingdom. For the match, I'd have to give it a solid 4 out of 5. Let's move on to the match that unfortunately suffered because of the high-octane ending, the second match. Second match. 3-way tag team match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Suzuki Gun, Yoshibu Kanemaru, and El Desperado versus Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo, versus Los Ingobernables de Japón, Bushi and Shingo Takagi. Moving on to the second match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Let's start off with the good. They had decent energy, and I enjoyed sort of the very short, though not really built up storytelling that they had of them trying to keep Shingo Takagi out of the match and failing. And they definitely moved very fast, and there was a lot of action, but just a lot of things I think brought down this match. Again, you had the crowd cooling down from the high energy of the past match, which hurt it. As I said, they did tell a story, but I don't think they really built to the story. And a thing with a lot of, I think, these undercard matches, that a lot of them just felt like they were lacking that build to the finish. Not that there weren't some false finishes, but I just don't feel like the match really earned the building to the finishes, and therefore successfully built it. And it was here too of just trying not to get the pump bar, but getting it. And I mean, mind you, the match really just felt like it was there to like showcase Shingo Takagi, which again, all for. I am a card carrying member, not officially yet. Hopefully one day we'll be officially card carrying member, but I am a fan of Los Ingobernables de Japón. I love them to death, and I am for anything that gives that group all the respect it rightfully deserves. But they still could have had a really good, if that great match that built up to it. And I think the thing that in particular that really hurt it, and this is the big thing, is 6 minutes and 48 seconds. You know, if I told you there was a match on a major WrestleMania-like pay-per-view that went 6 minutes and 48 seconds, and I may be off on the seconds part, but I know it's 6 minutes and 40-something seconds. But you would have thought I was talking about some WWE Divas match in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Nope, I'm talking about this match. And, you know, I went back, because, like, is it just me? Were all past matches this short? I went back to WrestleMania 9, the first one I saw. Over 15 minutes. The one in 2000, Wrestle Kingdom 10, was almost 25 minutes. Wrestle Kingdom 11 was almost 15 minutes, and that was 2-on-2. The 9 and 10 were both Fatal 4-Ways. Both had Red Dragon and the Young Bucks, but the first one had Forever Hooligans and Time Splitters. The second one had Roppongi Vice and Matt Sydal and Ricochet. 12 Roppongi 3K versus the Young Bucks. I believe over 15 minutes. So these matches in the past have been given a significant amount of time, and that time was used to build towards those finishes and to showcase, again, because one of the things New Japan is really known for is not just the length of the match is not just being long. It's towards building towards the finish and also showcasing that fighting spirit and the wrestler's ability to withstand pain and how far they can go, which really builds towards the epicness of the match and everything. Now, mind you, that could always work in its disfavor if it goes too long, as I've argued with some of the Kenny Omega Okada matches, where if they don't keep up the energy of the match, it gets lost, and therefore it just feels like a drag, and the length actually hurts it. Especially that Wrestle Kingdom 11 match, I've talked about that at length. But this was not given enough time. 6 minutes and 48 seconds is not a long enough time for this match to properly build towards its finish and give it that feeling like all the wrestlers were given the proper amount of time. They just didn't have that energy, and mind you, it had to be hard to follow Osprey and Bushi, but they could have followed it with another epic match if just given the right amount of time and allowed them to build, and that would have made Shingo Takagi an even bigger star. I mean, as it looks now, he looks strong and everything, but he doesn't look as strong as he can be, and I think there's a missed opportunity to really make him look strong by New Japan Pro Wrestling. And speaking of missed opportunities on superstars, another one of my favorite superstars, mind you, let's move on to the third match. Third match for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. versus the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii. Moving on to the third match, we have another match to where, in this case, it wasn't timed, though I do think it could have used 5 more minutes. And yet, it was a good match, it's just, it didn't have the energy, and I think the way it was booked hurt a particular wrestler. Zack Sabre Jr. looked incredibly strong in this match. I do love that, again, the story here of him as a submission wizard. Being able to, with all these different holds, keeping Ishii on the mat and just dominating him through the most part of the match and keeping Ishii's offense to a bare minimum. So I love that storytelling aspect of it. And it was a very enjoyable match. I mean, I love mat wrestling, and I wish there were more matches that were just completely on the mat. The thing is, there are 2 times where I think Zack Sabre Jr. matches, though, don't work. One is when you don't have a guy that can really help sell, I think, or is able to carry certain energy aspects that can make the match interesting. I think of his match with Okada for the title as an example of this. But the other is when you have a guy that has sort of an equal talent, but not equal skill set, or you don't allow a guy of equal talent to really clash against his style and showcase his style. It is, in this case, it makes the result seem that much more apparent, and it takes the drama and the tension away from it. And I think that's what happened here, because you have Tomohiro Ishii, this badass who I love, probably could be right there for that fifth favorite wrestler with Kushida. Actually, I'd probably say he's 4, and Kushida and Yujiro are battling for 5, actually, now that I think about it. But I think New Japan has really dropped the ball with him, because I really believe Tomohiro Ishii is somebody who can hold that New Japan World Heavyweight title, the IWGP World Heavyweight title, mind you, and again, he'd be a great champion. But I don't think they ever show him the proper respect. I mean, they had him have this great showing in the G1 Climax, but then what have they really done with him? I mean, they didn't have him beat Omega, which I didn't expect him to do, and they had a great match, but not as great as the one that they had in the G1. He certainly had a bomb-ass match with Suzuki, which is that those were just two men just beating the living hell out of each other because they like it. But I don't feel like they've really done anything successful to really bank off that great G1 run. And here, I think they ultimately did a disservice to him by giving him really almost no offense. And when I say that this match could have used 5 more minutes, I think that's what it was missing. It was missing 5 more minutes of Ishii coming back. They showed that he could deal with a lot of pain and withstand a lot of pain and offense from Zack Sabre Jr. But the other thing that makes people love Tomohiro Ishii isn't just his ability to withstand and his tolerance for pain and damage, but also the damage and just that hard-hitting, straight, blunt style that he does. And I felt deprived of that as a fan, and it just took all the tension and drama away from the match and made it feel, it's like, let me put it this way, it's like a football game where a team's being blown out. And even if you may like the teams and enjoy watching them, it's like you feel deflated and you don't want to watch it anymore because it's a blowout. You know what's going to happen. It's in a way, it's like, I don't want to say it's like a Brock Lesnar match because Zack Sabre Jr. is far more entertaining, but it just didn't have the tension and that drama to really allow it to really build up to that finish of him being able to submit Ishii. And again, I think that's what hurts the match in the long run. And again, it's a good match, but I'm on that drama and tension that these sort of type of hard-hitting affairs that Ishii does, that you come to expect. And again, it feels like they're going away from that traditional New Japan strong style too much and not allowing that proper build-up to the end of the match happening. So, by the way, I did not give a few stars for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match. I give that 2 out of 5 stars, and I think I'll give this a 3 out of 5 stars. Good, just not great, because it's missing that build-up. With that, though, let's move into the other Triple Threat Tag Team Championship match of Match 4. 5th match, 3-way tag match for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa versus the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson versus Evil and Sonata. Moving on to match 4, once again we have another tag match where, at just over 10 minutes, I don't think it was given really enough time to really grab the audience and draw them in. And certainly there were some really good maneuvers and great offensive maneuvers. I mean, the Young Bucks, it's effortless for them at this point. But it just, again, it's like, there's just something there that's not drawing me in. And it just, again, that build to the finish, that build, just wasn't there for me. I mean, there are things I liked in the match. I love the entrance of Guerrillas of Destiny. Love that little moment to where Evil ends up putting Tamatanga on Tangaloa and they end up doing the Magic Killer finish. I love the comedy because that's, by the way, what made this match to me better than the junior heavyweight tag team triple threat match was definitely the comedy of Tamatanga. Because, of course, Tamatanga is now a good guy and he's going to play by the rules. And, I'm really pulling for you, Tama. I really am. You're doing a great job so far. Even if you slip up sometimes, great job. Love the Red Hood costume, by the way. As a fan of Red Hood, I sort of he's dressed up as Red Hood. I couldn't figure out for the life of me what Loa is cosplaying as. I don't know if that's like what's his name? The alter ego that Robin does in the Teen Titans cartoon. Or just Nightwing or whichever, but because those 3 core, that looks so familiar. I just can't put my finger on it. And it bothers me. It really does. But, I love that he was cosplaying as Red Hood there. I loved it. And that comedy really helped the match go a long way to be more enjoyable than the other triple threat tag team match. But I just don't think it had the time to really successfully build towards it. Again, none of these matches were unenjoyable. They were certainly enjoyable and certainly good. They just weren't great. And they're, particularly with Wrestle Kingdom, there's sort of this standard and expectation that in watching the past 4 years I've come to expect, and it just wasn't there for me. And for any major event that's of this type of caliber, it just, I don't want to say that these were throwaway matches on smaller cards like New Beginning or Destruction Tours or whatever, but it just didn't feel like this was this epic pay-per-view match. It felt more like something from Corrigan Hall, which I hate saying. And again, it's not to sit there and say the matches in Corrigan Hall are bad. It's not. It's just there is a certain level of standard here, and I don't feel the matches outside of Osprey and Bushi have really reached that standard that you expect of something that has the name Wrestle Kingdom. And that Wrestle Kingdom has really built the reputation on. And so it just felt missing. Some of that, I think, was energy. And again, some of that, to my mind, is the Young Bucks. And again, I'm not saying that the Young Bucks didn't care, but I've always put the Young Bucks in that sort of category, Kenny Omega as well, of like Randy Orton, where they're just so silky smooth to good. They're, all their maneuvers they do so well, and they do it effortlessly, that if they're having an off night, you really can't tell unless you understand how to feel the difference. And really that was the difference here. You really could feel like, and I don't know if it was because of the melancholy of it being their possibly the last time at Wrestle Kingdom or what, or the maybe not knowing what the future will hold with what's going to happen with this big venture with AEW, but there's this melancholy feel from them, and not the same type of high energy that when you look at their greatest matches, really you can feel. Like, you go back and you look at the Golden Lover match that they had about almost a year ago, a little under a year ago. Again, the energy was just amazing, and it really made that match, and you just didn't have it here. You combine that with time, and you have a good but not great match. And but there are a lot of things I like, a lot of little things. I mean, on time, mind you, just 5 more minutes. I mean, I look at the match from like Wrestle Kingdom 11. I hate comparing matches to previous Wrestle Kingdom matches, and I don't know if that triple threat match was any longer than this, but certainly it was a lot more memorable because I keep watching it over and over because it has like 286 different curse words mentioned throughout the entire match, breaking Corino, and that was just what was said between Makabe and Loa that you could hear. You don't, not counting Tonga, Ishii, or Yano. So that may have had the same amount of time, but you wouldn't know it because it felt longer because of just how much fun was in them and just all that energy in that match. And because you have that energy missing, and it really worked against the match, and it really made the time aspect really also work against the match, to where it feels like they could have really used 5 more minutes at the very least. So, good, not great match. Once again, I give the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team title match, Triple Threat, a 3 out of 5. But congrats to the new Tag Team Champions, Evil and Sonata. Also, congrats to the new British Heavyweight Champions, Zack Sabre Jr., and the new Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, Shingo Takagi and Bushi. You all deserve it. With that, let's move on to the 5th match. 5th match for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. Juice Robinson versus the American Nightmare, Cody. Moving on to our 5th match for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. Again, time was an issue, though I'm a little bit more forgiving of time here because I think we all knew that Cody was injured going into this match. And I do wonder really how much he really could do. So I'm sure that may have had something to do with hampering. But it just never really captured, again, that energy. And I keep bringing it up. I hate to sound like a broken record. I just don't feel like it captured the energy. And it also just didn't feel like much happened. I mean, it started, they kind of went back and forth. Brandy kept getting involved. Got really involved, got thrown out. And then it just seemed to go downhill from there. And before you knew it, the match was over. And again, you have this title they're really trying to pass off as this really major title, and yet it's having this short match and roll-up finishes and everything, and it, unfortunately, I think it's hurting the U.S. title, and again, it's not giving that equal epic feel that like the Intercontinental title and the Never Openweight title, and certainly the World Heavyweight title has. And I think New Japan needs to do some serious work and have some seriously epic matches with that title to build up its prestige. Because it's prestige, which is supposed to be a really important thing of the titles in New Japan. Because, and certainly, it's not me saying it, that's something they constantly have commentators say about talking about that prestige. It's just not there right now with the U.S. title. Mind you, story-wise, I do like the story of Juice Robinson finally defeating Cody and overcoming Cody. Because, 2 years when Cody came to New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom, he defeated Juice Robinson. And so, getting revenge for that night and for stealing the U.S. title earlier, or mid-late last year. So, story elements, it's all there. It's just the match just didn't feel like it was the great payoff for the story. But as I mentioned before, understanding that Cody certainly was injured and there may have not been a lot he really could have done, and possibly the melancholy of leaving and starting his own company, there's a lot there that could have contributed to that. The the thing, unfortunately, is that as a fan, you can feel that, and it left me personally wanting more from that match. Love the entrances, love sort of the almost Macho Man-esque ring gear of Juice, and props to, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars are getting a lot of advertisement here with both the Young Bucks and Cody wearing their colors. I mean, you can't buy that type of advertisement, but still, it's just, match-wise, I want more. I felt left wanting more, ultimately. And I hate it because I've seen some wonderful Cody matches, and he absolutely has the ability of this. But again, I think I'm maybe a bit more understanding because I know he can't do much, but still, at the end of the day, I mean, I keep going back and forth. I completely understand it. I know injuries may have hampered what he could have done and really how long he could have gone, but it just was leaving me more. And could have used more time. Definitely could have used at least 5 more minutes. And just, that energy wasn't there. So for me, a 2 out of 5. But hey, let's not forget, congrats to Juice Robinson on becoming the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. By the way, as far as championships changing hands, so you notice a pattern here. Yeah, that's going to continue. We'll talk more about that at the end. But before that, let's move on to match number 6. 6th match for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. The Bone Soldier, Taiji Ishimori, versus the Time Splitter, Kushida. Well, it's only fitting that I start off the year controversially and just already start the pitchforks and torches. I found this to be the most disappointing match of the night. Now, before you throw your stones at me, allow me to explain myself. I have always been a huge proponent of the junior heavyweights as being almost always the best wrestling in any company. Whether it be New Japan, whether it be the 205 Live guys in WWE. I mean, just going back to the cruiserweights in WCW, it's what drew people in, let's be honest. And when I went into this pay-per-view, you know, I felt that the build, particularly for the undercard, was a little underwhelming, but I thought if there was any match that had the capability to break through and be this show-stealing match that could really surprise everybody, it would be the junior heavyweights, because they did it last year with the Fatal 4-Way with Osprey and Skull and Tanahashi and Kushida. And mind you, it started off wonderful with the entrances. I mean, Taiji Ishimori's entrance was good, but then you had that crazy mind-F entrance of Kushida with, of course, Doc Brown, 5 years early, and like, I love the comment of Don Gal was like, "Oh my God, he just blew up that kid." That may be the line of the night from Don Callis. Which, by the way, before I forget, Kevin Kelly, Don Callis killed it on commentary. Absolutely killed it. But yeah, it's just. And it was good. It was a good wrestling match. It was good, but Kushida's one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet, and Taiji Ishimori is an amazing junior heavyweight. I expected so much more of these guys. I think time was definitely an issue. I mean, this felt like one of the shortest junior heavyweight title matches I've ever seen, particularly on Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, I look at the past ones; they've all like gone over 20 minutes. This was only 10 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes! 10 minutes for one of your major titles? Like, what was really going on here? Like, it just does not feel right. Like, I know people are going to call me a hypocrite. I know one person, a good friend, is going to call me a hypocrite. It's like, well, you've always complained about the long matches. No, I complain about one series of matches between two wrestlers going too long because one wrestler not being able to carry the energy when it was his turn to carry the match. Okada. But that doesn't mean I want 5-10 minute matches that, let me put it. For all the people who complain about Raw, this feels like a match that could have been on Raw. Yes, I said it. This felt like a Raw match. Go ahead. Throw your stones. Throw your godforsaken stones. I said it. This felt like some not a throwaway match, but felt like a title match on Monday Night Raw. I mean, it's being given 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Are you freaking kidding me? By the way, I would explode up higher. We're recording this at night, and I don't want to get a police phone call, people are sleeping. I want to be considerate. But yeah, it blows my mind. They did not have a sufficient amount of time. And, yes, it's up to the wrestlers to make use of the time they have, but at the same time, there are certain situations where if it's a particular type of match for a major title or a major pay-per-view where the matches are supposed to have this epic building and this build-up, it's not the wrestlers not making use of the time, it's the bookers screwing the wrestlers by not giving them the right amount of time. And again, I know, until you walk in their shoes, I completely understand it, but again, as a viewer, as somebody watching and being able to judge from the outside, these two great wrestlers, you couldn't give them 10 more minutes. And they talked about how this felt like one of the shortest Wrestle Kingdoms of all time. It's just... all the matches felt not to go as long. And I think it's to the detriment of the matches themselves, especially this match. And I just don't think Kushida and Ishimori had a sufficient amount of time to really build that epicness, that epic feel, and that build towards that finish, which just seemed to come out of nowhere almost. Not like Randy Orton, out of nowhere, RKO. I mean, like, we're wrestling, there's really no been build towards wearing Kushida down, it felt like, for the finish, and then, hit the finish out of nowhere, 1, 2, 3. It's like, excuse me, am I missing something here? And I hate this because I freaking love Kushida. And I wish him all the best in WWE, where I know he's going. I cannot wait to see him in WWE, whether he's at 205 Live, NXT Japan, if that's in the works, main roster, whatever. By the way, I want my Kushida Daniel Bryan match soon. I really do. and I want to see him against AJ Styles, at John Cena. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Before I go into my Kushida wet dreams, names of who I wanted to face WWE. Most disappointing match of the night, And again, I'm saying this because I love both these wrestlers, especially Kushida. And I know they have this epic match in them that they could do, but the time they were given, obviously, they were handcuffed. And it created the most disappointing match of the night, as far as my concern. I mean, congrats to Taiji Ishimori for becoming the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. but the title has more prestige than that, and it deserved to be given more time. All the matches really felt like they could have been given more time. With that, though, let's move on to this. I didn't get enough stars. Like I said, disappointing. The wrestling's so good, I can't give it anything lower than a 2, but I can't give it anything higher than a 2. So, 2 out of 5 stars. So, with that, let's move on to the 7th match. 7th match. Special grudge match. The Switchblade. Jay White versus the Rainmaker. Kazuchika Okada. Moving on to the 7th match, this is where things start to get better and get good. Because get good is a grammatically correct term. Another notch for Botchamania. Though I'm not sure that Botchamania has a category for this proper use of English language skills on a podcast. But if they did, notch. Yeah, the grudge match we were all looking forward to. Again, time is a little bit of an issue here. I certainly felt it could have used 5 more minutes, but that's really the only thing I can say about this. I mean, it was a really, really good match, shocking ending, had everything you wanted in it. I mean, first off, starting off, I've never seen people so happy as I've seen internet wrestling fans on Twitter for somebody to be in shorts. And of course, he had Okada had his old music and everything, and it was it just makes me laugh. And of course, you had that fake video that somebody made, which props to them for creating it to where it's people, I guess, watching in a bar, and they switch so they put a small little video of Okada on the TV, so it seems like they were watching Wrestle Kingdom, and he puts his shorts and they go wild, and it's like, I know they're watching a soccer match, but that's funny as hell. But yeah, it got a big pop. I mean, the fact that him going to shorts got such a pop is amazing. It makes me laugh inside. It's like, if wrestling fans can be funny sometimes, can't they? But as far as the match, really good match. As much as I'm complaining about the time, I think time-wise, this is right in Okada's wheelhouse. It's, I really always think that Okada works best between the 20 to 30 minute mark. Because when Okada has to do rest holds and really carry a match over that half-hour mark, he doesn't really carry that energy well. And particularly when he's doing rest holds, it just feels like it bogs down the match, and it can get kind of boring. And I'm not just saying that about Omega. I mean, he kind of put me to sleep when he wrestled Zack Sabre Jr. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. was trying to put him to sleep. I was falling asleep because, again, that ability to control the match, just when it's going over 30 minutes, just wasn't there. But this is right in that wheelhouse, and it was a fast-paced, constantly moving match. A lot of great spots. Him getting a hold of Gato, throwing him into Jay White, putting him over the bar, and of course that running leap over the guardrail, body splash on both Jay White and Gato was great. The countering, something that to me I think New Japan comes known for, and how that's used to build towards the finish, in particular with Okada matches, just works so well. And just the counter after counter after counter, boom, hit the move. It's wonderful to watch, and how that's building. It's like, you think, here comes the finish, here comes the finisher. Oh no, the counter, and it's so wonderfully done. You can feel that there was great chemistry between Okada and Jay White, and I certainly want to see them wrestle more. Again, like I said, the only thing I can tick this match off is I felt like it could have used 5 more minutes, but that just would have continually built towards It's epic. I mean, time-wise, really right in line with most sort of special grudge matches actually at Wrestle Kingdom are. Because like I looked at AJ Styles and Naito from 9, about the same amount of time. The special grudge match from last year, I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm blanking on it, but that was also seemingly in the right amount of time. It just felt like it could use 5 more minutes, but still, just the amount of time they were given. Okada and Jay White did an amazing job. Will Osprey comes out of this looking like a major heel. This has been, I think, one of the best things New Japan has done, knowing that Omega probably going to be moving on either to AEW and WWE, and they might not be working with him. They've really done a great job in building Jay White to be the next big heel for their baby faces to have to deal with. And that has been great to see New Japan do. Especially after New Year's Dash. Just came out looking like a massive heel and people questioning who can beat Jay White. They've done a great job at that. And really it was a shocking win because I don't think anybody expected Jay White. Would Wrestle Kingdom be like WrestleMania where traditionally the faces win in general? I think a lot of people were expecting Okada to finally get one over on Jay White. So props on them for doing that. I give Okada and Jay White a 3.5 out of 5 stars. With that, let's move on to my boy Naito, and let's move on to the 8th match. 8th match. A no disqualification match for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. The tranquilo leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón, Tetsuya Naito versus the Alpha, Chris Jericho. Now on to the 8th match, and yeah, it's my boy Naito, because Los Ingobernables de Japón forever. I really enjoyed this match. This, again, one of the matches of the night, and Jericho and Naito just work really, really well together. I love Naito coming out and just, he is so frustrated with Jericho that he just immediately takes off his ring gear, and, you know, as Jericho's coming down, like, oh, Naito's already out of his gear. Like, they took a bit too long. Like, they kind of telegraphed, oh, yeah, Naito's going to jump Jericho from behind, and so there was a little bit of a sort of intelligence aspect to where, like, Jericho sort of saw him and he kind of threw it away, and it's like kind of ruined it, but still you enjoyed it. And just as soon as Naito attacked Jericho from behind, the match was on like Donkey Kong, and it was just a balls to the wall brawl. I love all the little things, the things they did outside. I love that Red Shoes just, again, smartly knowing that they're just going to go at it, rings the bell, gets it over with, or gets it underway because he knows it's not going to be able to control him. I love that little thing. And Don Callis pointing that out as well. I thought they had a great back and forth, and there was a great build, and just building and building with weapons and the different ways they were using them, from chairs to the kendo sticks, just building and building to the finish. And I mean, it was not a pretty wrestling match by any means, but it was a great brawl, and it had that sort of down and dirty feel to it. And it was good to see Naito get a win at Wrestle Kingdom, because certainly they have Naito lose, in my mind, far too much at Wrestle Kingdom. You know, I'm one of the few people who says part of the reason why Wrestle Kingdom 12 was a downer for me is I thought they should have put the title on Naito, and I thought it was a huge mistake, and still think it was a huge mistake. Despite the stories they have told, which were good, I still think it was a huge mistake to not put the title on Naito. But great to see him win it. Of course, still continuing to treat the Intercontinental title with disrespect, which I think everybody loves at this point. just really solid chemistry between him and Jericho, and sort of a great way to, it wasn't just him regaining the title, but really to end that feud that he's been doing all year long that they built towards with Jericho. With little things here and there. Build in Year's Dash last year, and then that really coming to fruition at Dominion, where Jericho upsets Naito, and the match with Evil. Build up to that match, Naito coming out to challenge Jericho, and that all leading up to this match. So really great job. One of the best matches of the night. Wasn't a beautiful wrestling clinic by any means as some of the other matches were, but it had all the drama and tension that you want in a great championship match, in particular one that is being done New Japan strong style. It was just an all-out brawl, and I loved it. I give it a solid 4.5 stars out of 5. It was just really, really good match. Really enjoyed it. Just made Naito $1 million. And your new IWGP Intercontinental title, Mr. Tranquilo himself, Tetsuya Naito. Congrats. You deserve it. With that, though, let's move on to our final match of the evening. Final match for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. The Ace of Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi, versus the Best Bout Machine, Kenny Omega. Moving on to the final match, and thank God it didn't disappoint, because New Japan Pro Wrestling finished off Wrestle Kingdom 13 with, to no one's surprise, a Match of the Year candidate. And I give all the credit here to Hiroshi Tanahashi, who, again, like I said, is my favorite wrestler from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And to a lot of people, he's the John Cena of New Japan. And to me, I make that comparison because, like John Cena, he is a magnificent storyteller in the ring. And not just because of him. I mean, there are wrestlers who maybe have a more engaging, exciting moveset, like Kenny Omega or Kazuchika Okada, and can do all those sort of counter for counter to counter just like that. But Hiroshi Tanahashi, like John Cena, is really good at slowing down just a bit and really telling a story of not just of styles, but of personalities, and making those differences become an engaging, exciting story with tension and drama that the crowd just eats up and gets completely drawn into. And you saw it here. And mind you, the whole build-up was talking about the story of sort of the difference of ideas of what the IWGP Heavyweight title meant to both Kenny and Hiroshi Tanahashi. To where to Tanahashi it was the end game, to where to Kenny it was more of a means to the end. Tanahashi at the top of the mountain is the title, and that's where you want to be, to where Kenny, it was great to have the title, but having the title really helps towards putting you in a situation to have these amazing matches and showing off your abilities. And sort of that difference of philosophy just shown through in the match. Like that, John Cena does this in WWE, and Tanahashi does it here in New Japan. First off, the entrances, love them. Classic Tanahashi entrance at the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, followed by sort of that great sort of Undertale sort of entrance by Kenny Omega with the feathers and that Undertale sort of preview that had dropped a couple days before on the screen. And then they started the match, and it was just magnificent all the way through. Just starting off where Tanahashi takes control first, and not just take control, but have them be basically wrestling sort of his more style of the match. Not just his style, but more of his philosophy of match. More of that traditional Japanese strong style. But then Kenny takes control and they start wrestling more in his type of philosophy and his style of match, where it's just big boobs and just the bombastic speed of the match. And you're wondering, my God, can Tanahashi hang on? And then as the match continues, the melding of the different styles and the real melding of the different philosophies into one, to where it's how much can each wrestler take, combined with just the magnificent offense both wrestlers were doing and the back and forth. And it, more than any other match that night, built the tension and the drama. You didn't know who was going to win. Even though people know that Kenny Omega's contract was coming up and New Day is probably going to be either signing with WWE or AEW. I don't think a lot of people think he's staying with New Japan, which he still might. But still, I think there are a lot of people who didn't think they'd take the title off him. And people really didn't know which way it was going to go. By the end, everybody was cheering for both wrestlers. And at no point was I not engaged in this match. At no point was I bored. No point, I was fully excited and just hanging on every move throughout the match. You know, and here's where I'm going to bust on Dave Meltzer, because Dave Meltzer wants to talk about 6 stars with Okada and Omega. You want something that, you know, I've talked about things that are 6 stars. Something to come close to this is this. But I'm not somebody who breaks my scale for anybody, because I think that does the wrestler a disservice, because it also doesn't allow you to talk about, when you do your matches of the year and you compare different 5-star matches, why this 5-star match is better than this one. And it allows you to talk about those little things, because every 5-star match is different. But you know what? Dave Meltzer can contact me. He can call me. Anybody that wants to say that Okada and Omega's first 2 matches in particular are like the greatest matches ever of all time, I will gladly put this match up against any of those matches any day of the week, because the storytelling that Omega and I almost said Okada, but Omega and Tanahashi did here was a masterpiece, and absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. And I put master for storytelling, which is the true art of pro wrestling, up against fantastic moves at bombastic speed any day of the week. Fight me on this. I beg you, please. I will win every day, all day on this. Just an absolutely incredible match. The back and forth, Tanahashi's selling of the knee strikes, the working on the leg, and how that ultimately affected towards the end of the match and helping Tanahashi win. The high fly flows, the sort of ultimately the ego of Omega coming out, and ultimately also costing him, like with him going for high fly flow and maybe messing around too much, because again, he was banking on his youth too much, which is another story they told here of the elder statesman of the old line trying to regain and defend his spot at the top of the mountain in Tanahashi versus the younger, faster, stronger lion in Omega. So many different stories that combined in all this match and with wonderful, beautiful, glorious wrestling and great counters, and just, you felt the emotion. Absolutely an incredible match. And don't get me wrong, Omega deserves a lot of credit. It shows that he can wrestle all these different styles, and he can tell the story with the best of them. But I also give a lot of credit to Tanahashi, because he is absolutely magnificent and amazing. And Omega could really, I think, only have this type of match and have this type of storytelling with someone with his ability, which is, in my mind, why I really want Omega to go to WWE, if for nothing else, to have that one match with John Cena. Because if there's one man that's like Tanahashi, it's John Cena. And, like, God, I want that match. I want Cena versus Omega. Like, badly. But let me not get into that dream match just yet. I'll get into that another day. Yeah, just... Amazing match. 5 out of 5 stars. A 5-star match. No contest there. And of course, congrats to your new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, the Ace of Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi. The Ace is back in his throne where he just belongs and deserves. So, with that, let's move into final thoughts. So here in final thoughts, if you've never seen the show, I usually like to list my top 3 favorite moments along with top 3 favorite matches before giving an overall sort of star review of the show. So starting off with moments, number 3, I'm going to have a tie here between Kenny Omega and Guerrilla's Destiny's entrance. I love them both. They were both amazing entrances, and they were really great. Number 2, I kind of forgot to talk about this, but Will Osprey and Kotto Bushi, of course, did a sort of a repeat of the spot they did in Corrigan Hall. I can't for the life of me remember the maneuver. I know it was a different maneuver this time, but again, it was that thing to where, Kotto thinks he got Osprey, but Osprey's just there, and he's like while facing away from him, and slowly turns to him, and it's like, Kotto, don't turn around, you're not gonna like the view. It's just it was this great epic moment to that match. Really enjoyed it. That was definitely a moment, and really the one moment out of the. I mean, you had all this amazing wrestling, and there was a lot of great drama back and forth, but there's no one particular. Outside of that, there wasn't really one particular spot that's I remember that right off the bat. I mean, even that spot I barely remembered, which is another thing about this. Really, that Wrestle Kingdom was sort of strange because usually you have several of those type of things, but I just didn't feel like there was any of those here. But number 1, I don't think it should be any surprise, the Kushida entrance, the biggest mind F entrance of all time, the greatest yet creepiest entrance of all time. And of course, having Don Callis saying, "Oh my God, he killed a kid!" It just sold it completely over the top. Best moment of Wrestle Kingdom 13 in my mind. Top 3 matches. It's really hard. At number 3, Osprey and Kota Ibushi. I really enjoyed it. It was a great opening match, had all the energy, only brought slightly down by the fact of, unfortunately, Kota Ibushi's actual injury, even though the stretcher job was a work, that actual concussion kind of... And if you really watch that match, you could tell he had a concussion, and it's sort of the one thing to bring down. You see, it's even bringing down my title belt. At number 2, Naito versus Jericho for the IWGP Intercontinental title. Absolutely magnificent brawl, sort of no disqualification match. Really wonderful. Great job by Jericho, just continues to reinvent himself, and Naito is just so silky smooth. It's just so tranquilo, just so wonderful to watch. Like I said, I over the past year, I've yet to watch a Naito match I wouldn't watch again. That's how good he is. But number 1, again, it should be no surprise by just how I gushed on it a couple minutes ago. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. The only 5-star match of the night. Ending the show on a magnificent, wonderful way. Completing sort of Tanahashi's great story of his transitioning to as an more elder statesman and elder wrestler, and just reclaiming his throne once again in different ways, as he's done in this story that he's been telling over the past half a year. Just absolutely magnificent, amazing match, and certainly a match I expect for us to be talking about in a year when we go over the best matches of 2019. So overall, I did enjoy Wrestle Kingdom 13. Every title changed hands. So there certainly was this sort of fresh start feel going down with particularly with Jay White really taking over as the premier heel now, and everything that was going down. We'll see how things happen in New Beginning at the end of January, beginning of February, and going towards there. But again, there wasn't a bad wrestling match at all, but there was sort of this epic standard that you expect of Wrestle Kingdom that I felt, for the most part, the undercard just didn't deliver on. And a lot of that is really due to the time some of the matches were given, in particular that junior heavyweight, both junior heavyweight matches, both the tag titles and that triple threat, and the normal heavyweight title. Energy that was just missing, the crowd not being into some of them, you know, especially after being so into that opening match. And so just, it felt like outside of that opening match, the entire undercard didn't deliver to what I expected it to. And again, it's not because there were bad matches, it's just the energy that you expect and the build and the draw, and just handcuffed by time. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just, I really think it hurt the undercard that much, to where you had matches that were good, just not great, and didn't have that epic feel that you expect at Wrestle Kingdom. They ended the show, though, very strong, with 3 very strong, very good matches. Okada White could have used more time, but Naito and Jericho just nailed it out of the park with a great brawl match, and then just wrestling perfection between Omega and Tanahashi. Finished it strong, made it a very solid pay-per-view. Not the WWE killer that I think a lot of people wanted it to be, but still a really great show. I give Wrestle Kingdom 13 a solid 3 out of 5. Had a great opening and ending matches, and it's bigger those last 3, but that undercard was just really was a letdown for me personally. So 3 out of 5 stars for Wrestle Kingdom 13. I hope you really enjoyed. Don't go up. Jim is down. Jim is down. I've had that for over 30 years, so stay frosty there, Jim. Botch number 4. I hope you enjoyed this first video episode of CMG's Wrestling Reviews. I know it's a bit long. We had a lot to talk about and cover. But I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you were entertained. And I hope you'll join us for episode 101 of CMG's, when we talk NXT TakeOver Phoenix and the Royal Rumble. So, of course, that may be broken into 2 episodes. We'll see. We'll go from there. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe. Hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel here at the Absolution Network. And, of course, always check out all the past audio stuff on our website at www.an.132productions.com. And until next time, my wrestling fans, I want you to remember that I am the most glorious Jew that ever lived, and I am your wrestling rabbi. So just sit back and bask in my glory.